I remember that evening too damn well. The TV was playing some old baseball game. The sound turned low, just for background noise. Jake, my 22-year-old, was half watching with me, scrolling through his phone like always. Laura was in the kitchen, humming some pop song while she cooked. Everything felt normal, comfortable, the kind of night that makes you think, yeah, life's not so bad. But then I caught it, just a flicker on Jake's face when Laura laughed at something on her phone, a tightness around his eyes like he'd bitten into something sour. I didn't think much of it. Kids these days, always moody about something. I should have known better. Later, after Laura went upstairs, Jake lingered. He kept shifting his weight like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Finally, he just blurted it out. "Dad, we need to talk. Alone." That's when I felt the first cold trickle of dread. I followed him to the garage where he pulled out his phone with shaky hands. No build-up, no warning, just a photo shoved in my face. Laura at some cafe I didn't recognize, leaning into a guy I'd never seen before. His hand was on her wrist. Not just friendly, familiar. "What the hell is that?" I heard myself ask, even though I already knew. Jake's voice was flat. "She's been seeing him for months." The room tilted. Months. All those late work meetings. All the time she'd been too tired to talk. I'd chalked it up to stress, to middle age, to anything but this. I stared at that damn photo until my eyes burned. Laura's smile, the same one she'd given me across the breakfast table that morning. Only now, it looked like a lie. Jake said something else, but I didn't hear it. All I could think was, how many nights did I sit right there on that couch, happy as a fool, while she was? The garage door creaked in the wind. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. Normal sounds in a world that didn't feel normal anymore. I didn't yell, didn't cry. Just handed the phone back and said the only thing that made sense. "Show me everything." The hours after Jake showed me that photo blurred together. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the cold coffee Laura had left for me earlier, back when I still thought I knew her. The house was too quiet. Every tick of the clock felt like an accusation. Jake had given me more: texts, dates, places, a whole secret life hidden in plain sight. The receipts were there, undeniable, but some stubborn part of me still clung to doubt. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. Maybe there was some explanation that would make sense. I found myself standing in front of her dresser, my fingers tracing the edge of her jewelry box. That's where she kept the locket I'd given her on our 20th anniversary. Inside, there was supposed to be a tiny photo of us from our honeymoon. When I clicked it open, the picture was still there, but beside it, tucked behind mine, was a folded slip of paper, a hotel receipt. From last month. The room number was circled. My hand shook as I pulled out my phone and compared the date. That was the night she'd told me she was staying late to help her sister move. I'd even offered to help, but she'd insisted it wasn't necessary. I sank onto the bed, the weight of it pressing down on me. The details lined up too perfectly, the excuses, the distance, the way she'd started dressing up more for errands. How had I missed it? Worse, had some part of me known and refused to see it? The front door opened, and I heard Laura's keys drop into the bowl by the entryway. Her footsteps were light, carefree. She called out my name, her voice warm like nothing was wrong. I didn't answer. She appeared in the doorway, her smile fading when she saw my face. Her gaze flicked to the open locket in my hand, then back to me. For a second, neither of us moved. Then her shoulders slumped. No denial, no outrage, just quiet defeat. That silence told me everything I needed to know. I stood, walked past her, and grabbed my car keys. I didn't trust myself to speak. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice small. I didn't look back. The door slammed behind me hard enough to rattle the frame. The night air was sharp, but I barely felt it. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in that house another second. Not when every room smelled like her, not when every memory felt like a lie. The car engine roared as I pushed past the speed limit, tires screeching against asphalt. Streetlights blurred into streaks of yellow as I drove nowhere in particular, just away. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. I passed the diner where Laura and I used to get pancakes after late shifts, the park where we'd taken Jake when he was little. Every landmark was a knife twist. 23 years of marriage reduced to lies and a goddamn hotel receipt. The highway stretched empty ahead of me. No cars, no witnesses, just the hum of the engine and the static in my head. I rolled down the window, letting the cold air slap my face. Maybe it would clear the images burned behind my eyelids. Laura smiling at that stranger. Laura lying to me with such easy calm. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. Jake. Then Laura. Then Jake again. I ignored them all. I pulled over near the old railroad tracks where kids used to drink beer on Friday nights. The kind of place I hadn't been since before Jake was born. The dashboard clock read 2:17 a.m. For the first time in decades, I had nowhere to be. I reached into the glove compartment and found the half-empty bottle of bourbon I kept for emergencies. The first swallow burned. The second barely registered. By the third, the edges of my vision softened, but the pain stayed sharp. A train whistle echoed in the distance. I thought about standing on the tracks. Not seriously, just one of those dark fantasies that flit through a broken mind. Instead, I took another drink and watched the freight cars rumble past, carrying someone else's problems to someone else's town. When the bottle was empty, I hurled it at a rusted stop sign. The glass shattered with a satisfying crash. I slumped back into the driver's seat, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline had faded, leaving only a hollow ache. I closed my eyes just for a second. The sun was rising when I woke, my neck stiff from sleeping upright. My phone showed 14 missed calls. I turned the key in the ignition. The engine sputtered to life. Time to face what was left. The driveway looked different in the harsh morning light. Our house, the one I'd paid off last year, the one with Laura's flower boxes by the porch, seemed like a museum exhibit of someone else's life. The curtains were drawn, no lights on inside. I sat in the car for 10 minutes, watching the mailbox sway in the wind. Part of me hoped she'd packed her things and left. Part of me hoped she hadn't. The front door was unlocked. The smell of coffee hit me first. She'd made a pot like it was any other Tuesday. I found her at the kitchen table, still in yesterday's clothes, her fingers wrapped tight around a mug. She looked up when I entered. No tears, no apologies, just tired eyes and a quiet, "Hey." I walked past her to the bedroom. My dresser drawers hung open, half emptied. A suitcase lay on the bed, stuffed with my shirts and socks. Laura's message was clear without saying a word. The bathroom mirror showed a stranger, stubble, bloodshot eyes, bourbon still oozing from my pores. I splashed cold water on my face, but the man staring back didn't improve. When I returned to the kitchen, she'd poured me coffee. Black, 2 sugars. The way I'd taken it for 23 years. I left it untouched on the counter. Jake's bedroom door creaked open down the hall. He hovered in the doorway, looking younger than his 22 years, his face pinched with something between guilt and relief. I wanted to tell him it wasn't his fault, but the words stuck in my throat. Laura finally spoke. "I'll be gone by Friday." I nodded, my fingers tracing a chip in the countertop, the one Jake had made when he was 7, swinging a baseball bat indoors. 1,000 memories in this house, and now just artifacts. I took my keys and left again. This time, I knew where I was going. The motel on Route 9 welcomed me with a flickering neon sign. The clerk didn't ask questions when I paid cash for a week. The room smelled like bleach and cigarettes. I lay on the stiff bed, staring at a water stain on the ceiling that looked like Florida. Laura and I had honeymooned in Florida. I turned on the TV and cranked the volume until I couldn't hear my own thoughts. The motel air conditioner rattled like a dying animal. I sat on the edge of the bed with my laptop open, staring at the LinkedIn profile of the man who destroyed my life. Mark Reynolds, regional sales manager, 46 years old, smug corporate headshot with perfect teeth, married according to his profile. 2 kids. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. It would be so easy. Forward his messages to his wife, call his office, show up at his gym. The fantasies played in my head like a movie trailer. Instead, I drove to his neighborhood. His house was nicer than ours, bigger yard, newer SUV in the driveway. A tricycle lay overturned on the lawn. Through the window, I could see a woman setting the table while two little girls chased each other around the kitchen. I sat there until the porch lights came on, until I saw him pull into the driveway, laughing on his phone, until he walked inside and kissed his wife like a man with nothing to hide. The steering wheel creaked under my grip. I could march up there right now, ruin him like he'd ruined me. But then the front door opened, and a little girl in pajamas ran out to greet him. She leapt into his arms, and he spun her around like some goddamn hero. I turned the key in the ignition. Back at the motel, I poured whiskey into a plastic cup and stared at my phone. Laura had called 7 times. Jake had texted, "We need to talk." I deleted them all. The TV played some crime drama where the husband exacted perfect revenge. I muted it and listened to the ice cubes melt in my drink instead. Tomorrow I'd call a lawyer. Tomorrow I'd be someone who made rational decisions. But tonight, I let myself imagine Mark Reynolds coming home to an empty house, to divorce papers on the counter, to the same hollow ache I carried in my chest. The whiskey tasted like ashes. I woke to sunlight slicing through the motel curtains. The digital clock read 8:17 a.m., the latest I'd slept in years. No Laura gently shaking me awake. No coffee brewing downstairs. Just the hum of traffic outside and the ache of yesterday's whiskey. The lawyer's business card sat on the nightstand. I picked it up, tracing the embossed letters with my thumb. One call, and the machinery of divorce would begin. One signature, and 23 years would become paperwork. My phone buzzed. Jake again. "Dad, please." I drove to the diner we used to visit after his Little League games. He was already in a booth, stirring sugar into coffee just like I did. The sight of him, my boy, now a man, knocked the air from my lungs. We sat in silence for a full minute before he slid an envelope across the table. Divorce papers, signed by Laura. "She's sorry," he said. I almost laughed. Sorry didn't rebuild a life. The waitress refilled our coffees. Outside, a young couple argued by their car, their voices muffled through the glass. I wondered if they'd make it. Jake cleared his throat. "I'm moving to Chicago. Got that job at the design firm." My chest tightened. Of course he was leaving. Smart kid. I signed the papers right there using a ballpoint pen with a chewed cap. The ink bled slightly on the line. We ate pancakes like we used to, but the syrup tasted different now. Too sweet. Artificial. Back at the motel, I packed my suitcase. The clerk gave me half my money back for leaving early. The highway stretched ahead, empty and endless. I could go north toward Jake, west toward the mountains, or east toward the ocean. Anywhere but here. I merged left. For the first time in months, the weight in my chest felt lighter. Not gone, but bearable. The radio played an old Springsteen song about fresh starts. I turned it up and rolled down the windows. Somewhere behind me, my old life grew smaller in the rearview mirror. Somewhere ahead, the road kept going,